I can say anything you want. It's gonna be a great time.
Let me record this.
Just for everyone out there, our Blender fans, I got the sock on just for you. I love working with the people because that's how you get the best results.
Hi everyone, Pierrick from P2 Design here. I had the chance to have a super talk with Richard Arroyo. In this first video, we will be talking about his career path and his job at Ubisoft. And in the second part, we'll be talking about his job and his mission at iAnimate. Let's get started. Hi Rick, so welcome to the channel. Can you present yourself for the people who doesn't know you? Sorry, that's not the first take we are doing, so let's get started.
So hi, yeah, my name is Richard Arroyo. I'm a senior art animation director at Ubisoft, and I'm also a manager and owner at iAnimate.
Cool. So where are you from? Where do you live now?
Well, I live here in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, which is it's an awesome place. A little cold right now, but it is pretty awesome, and a great city that is actually expanding in our industry. So yeah, it's really dope.
Okay, cool. So we will start with fast random question just to warm up, to get away with the,
it's like a fight.
With the stress.
Like, bring on the questions, man. I'm ready to warm up.
Those might be a bit weird, but let's get started. I want quick answers, okay?
Quick answers. All right.
Okay.
Ooh, it's hard for directors, eh?
Are you more cat or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay. What's your favorite band or music artist?
Oof. Well, hip hop, it would be really my genre. Favorite one, I don't know right now.
Okay, no problem. Your favorite food?
Favorite food has to be probably Greek. I love Greek food. I love Hispanic food. Okay. I love food. I just love food, man.
Cool.
I love food, Indian, Thai, you name it. Bring it on.
Cool. Favorite moment of the day?
Morning. Yeah, I'm prime time, like routine, habits, behaviors. I talk about this in our podcast. I love my mornings. This morning I was up ready for you. Like I woke up 7:30. I was like, boom.
Same for me. I love the early morning when everything is quiet and you do your stuff. That's
exactly
fantastic.
Yeah.
Favorite color?
Favorite color?
Okay, like all black.
The dark side, man. The dark side black.
A place you would like to go?
Thailand. I haven't been, so that's somewhere I would be interested in visiting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Favorite movie of all time? That's a hard one for sure.
Oh, favorite movie. I would say the one that really impacted me and that blew me away was The Matrix.
Okay, yeah.
That changed a lot for me. I mean, there's other movies, but that one really was like I was caught off guard.
Yeah, for sure. And finally, your favorite animator?
Okay, I'm gonna make some people mad.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't have one. I really don't have one. I'm really interested more in the animation community and where it goes versus one singular person. So I believe in that and seeing that community. We have the 2D, the 3D, and now this current community, how it is. I'm really interested in that.
Okay, cool. So can you just tell us a bit about your artistry? How did you get into animation? If you have made any studies about this, in college?
Yeah. I mean, to keep it quick, since we're on like rapid fire questions, I actually, I started my major in computer programming, right? I used, obviously I did some art, I did drawings, and I had a high interest in the arts. But like most kids, when you're young and you say you want to do something, the option is doctor or lawyer, right? And we have a lot of our families that are in the medical field. And I was like, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to work computers. I did computer programming, and then towards the beginning or middle, I made a switch into computer animations for TV and film. And then I just really laser focus, slept at school, and just really dive deep into the animation industry.
And was there any influential moment or person that made you switch to computer animation instead of computer programming?
I would say, yeah. I mean, there was a few people that had a great influence. I had some friends. I had a school counselor that recommended, and I also landed on some documentary and some articles about soft image, right?
Okay, yeah.
And being that soft image was here in Montreal, it was like a really huge hub. Really got me interested. I went to a school to learn, like kind of like a private class to learn 3D, and then from there it just kind of like I stopped my like computer programming hard skills and coding, and I just made a huge jump into 3D. So it was crazy, just like really one end to the other, one spectrum to the other. Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
super technical to like art.
That's super cool. That's super cool. So I'd like to talk a bit about your career at Ubisoft. That's a huge one for sure. So I guess there is a lot to cover. We'll try to
I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna keep it short.
Don't
so
worry.
Get the most out of this.
If you have anything to share, that's super, super cool. So I will start with the broad picture. What are your responsibilities? Basically, what do you do at Ubisoft?
At Ubisoft, as a senior director, I have multiple responsibilities, and I'll kind of just touch upon the three things that I'm working on now. Right now, I'm working with the Helix department, and on the Rainbow Six brands is where I do a lot of marketing and commercials and directing that. With the fellowship of directors. So we have the realization directors and helping bring in those pieces to promote and let the audience and the players know what's coming up, what characters coming up, and special abilities. I love doing that. They're really small pieces, so I've been doing commercials for a while, and be able to do that with Ubisoft is really fun. And then there's another project that I'm also working on, which is it's a mobile project, and I'm right now working on the character developments. So all the UI introduction to the characters. I won't say too much, but it's really cool. So I'm working on that, and then there is a third project, which is a project that has been announced, which I'm kind of preparing for and looking at directing and being a part of that team. So I get to do that, and the thing that I also enjoy doing at Ubisoft, which has always been part of me, is like helping others, coaching and teaching, because I believe directing and teaching is almost one and the same. So I also coach young directors or leads that want to become directors, or artists that want to become directors, how to direct on a massive scale, not just like this little piece, but think big, giant picture, how to direct something that's going to come out maybe 2-3 years from now, but how do you make the right decisions now? So that's a lot of things I like to do. So
that's
at Ubisoft.
Okay. So as a director, you play both on the animation spectrum, but also on the art direction in a way. Yes.
So like with Watch Dogs, obviously we have phenomenal art directors, but one of the responsibility was to help influence and guide the world tone. So I would use when you're a senior art and animation director at Ubisoft, you have skills that go beyond animation, right? It could be when you're casting, when you're on set directing, when when you have teams, you're working with, audio directors, art directors, level directors. So I would use every element, every ingredient to kind of put it together. So I will touch upon these things. I don't concept art or anything, but I'll do Photoshop bashing and mashing, putting things together to kind of help explain or dictate what I believe will help the game. And so the creative director, when he sees it, he's like, yeah, that's exactly kind of what I was trying to get at, and put it together. And then, so I'll do that, taking art environment, put it together, animation, obviously using sound and saying like, this is the type of music or the sound that we should hear, or I touch kind of a little bit on everything.
You give the broad vision, and then you have other people that do produce the specific concept and artwork in a way.
Yes and no. Like there's some aspects I'll I'll do the broad vision. Like if I'm working with, we had this awesome art director, Toma, that was on Watch Dogs here in Montreal, and we're working on making the world tone stronger. And I was like, we'll bounce off ideas, talk to each other, and as I'm using the crowd life, the living city, the animations in the world to kind of promote the tone. I would talk with Thomas like, we need, if we're talking about poverty, right, what poverty looks like, I need to have characters that are grounded to the world. So I'm like, okay, we need, tents, we need garbage. Why is there garbage? Because they're scavenging through, they need vents with steams because usually that's where, the homeless will go to stay warm. So I'm thinking on the story and what elements, ingredients that, and I will work with art director and say, hey, there was this location in Watchdog, where we just kind of like filled the world where it was like a hub for the homeless. So it was like a small mini village, if you will. And inside that village as well, if they live there, what do they do? I mean, they eat, they sleep, they might use the bathroom and somewhere behind a bush, right? So these are the things I'm thinking. I know it sounds kind of funny at the same time, right? But then I'll work with our director and say, okay, this is what they're doing. This is where I think they should do it. And then with our director, it's like, yeah, he'd be like, no, let's consider that the lighting's coming over here. Let's change it. I'm like, oh, absolutely, that's great. Oh, we have this object we can reuse and put it like if they use it as a storage, So it's like all these ideas come together, and I work with the directors, kind of like, yes, that's great. And sometimes they say, no, we must have this. I'm like, all right. I mean, you have to have trust and faith in your colleagues. At the same time, you have to kind of give the inspiration and drive. So I do that, but I love going straight down to the team and working hands-on with the team. So when it comes in terms of all those ideas or those narratives, those stories that I would create, with the team, I like to make sure that they are getting put in the exact spot I want. So sometimes I'll work with them. I'll sit right next to them, talk what's the goal and have it placed, have it retime, have it crafted. And then once I see that, they're really getting it, they're mastering it, then I'll step back a little bit more, giving them the creative freedom to come up with other ideas. So I love going up and down the creation process.
The production, production hierarchy.
Absolutely.
That's cool. So Ubisoft comes a lot of realistic AAA, even it's in the past, in the future, but it's very grounded. All the Ubisoft different IPs, whether it's Watch Dogs, it's the Assassin's Creed and stuff like that.
Right. Yes.
With very realistic animation. So what kind of process, what kind of technology do you use to get to this level of realism?
Before you say technology, I think one key element is the right people, right? Because you can have cool tools, but if you don't have the right team or the right people, the artists, the tech art, the programmers helping get the right results, it doesn't matter what software. I mean, everyone example, most of our artists are either using Blender or Maya or a motion builder, right? For, general public, just because you have a phenomenal, powerful tool doesn't mean you're going to get results.
Yeah,
so
sure.
For me, it is the people that are really the results. The tools we use at Ubisoft, obviously we have our own tools, but, we do use, for Watchdog, we did use a lot of motion builder, Maya, and I'm certain there's other softwares that other members, maybe the modeler or environment artists might use. I'm not, I don't know exactly every program they're using, but, we use everything. I mean, I use Premiere just to do my creative briefs, right? Or my videos that I would share with the different studios. So.
Okay, do you I guess you rely more on motion capture than end-keyed animation for this kind of project like Watchdog? Or is it...
I mean, yes and no. The motion capture, I mean, it's a phenomenal tool, right? I mean, yeah, we do a lot of motion capture, but it gets processed and it gets embellished. I think that's a really important word. Yeah. Embellished, gets pushed by the artist, right? So it's not like it's just copy paste, like, oh, motion capture, it's done. No, it's like motion capture, and then it could be pushed. The performance can be pushed, or it could be refactored. It could be like, enhanced. It could be scaled and accelerated. It can be toned down. It can be tweaked. So if a character goes like, what's going on, and it's too active, well, we can dampen it down. So it's like, oh, what's going on? But it's the same movement, same timing, but just dampened down. So yeah, I mean,
I think this is something that is really overlooked by people, especially beginners. When we talk about motion capture, they not necessarily know that there is a lot of work behind to clean the motion capture, to push the poses, push the action, or as you say, tone it down. So you use motion capture mostly as a base for the motion currently, but the true acting or true animation goes through the end of an animator, right?
Absolutely. So you have to understand that just because the actor does a great performance doesn't mean it's going to translate great in CG. As simple as that, right? As much as you can make like the best performance, you can see it on the giant screen and say like it's looking good. But once that performance get put into an environment where there's building, there's cars, there's whatever, spaceships, it doesn't matter. And you'll be like, okay, it looked great in real life, right? But when it got translated and brought over, even before the cleanup, you look at it, you're like, it's good, but it's not that, like, wow. So the animator has to understand that sometimes you gotta like, sometimes you just chuck it. You just use it as a template, and you're like, all right, I got to do this. Oh my goodness, I didn't have as much time as I thought I was going to get, but I still have to do this. And other times it's like, okay, there's a great performance here, but it's just not if again for game development or for cinematic or for that medium, it's just not there where it engages or connects and resonate with audience. So the animator needs to understand, like, how do I add that 20% that really blows people away? And that's really important. So sometimes you have phenomenal mocap, but it's like one for one. There's some stuff I'm doing right now where you can see the process, and from the reference to the actor to the final results, it's practically one for one, but it's just the way it was executed. And other times it's like, ooh, this was, it's kind of there. You have that the core essence, but hasn't bloomed like a flower. It's like it's there, but it's not open and beautiful. It's just there. So you have to kind of like push it, enhance it. So yeah,
that's cool.
Like a flower.
Cool. So you do both directing during the motion capture session, yes, and do you also direct the cleaning and polishing stage? And do you still animate yourself also?
No, I don't animate like all day animate. No, I mean the amount of work and the amount of preparation and clarity and direction because like I think we mentioned before, but when you're directing, it's not like you direct and you get the results now. Like when you're working on a major project, I would direct something like now, and I might only see it like 15 months down the line. So the decision you make, it has to be really point on. And the amount of, resources, which means, money, the company's money, and the number of people working on it, you have to make sure that what they're working on has purpose, that they didn't just do something and it just gets, we cut it, didn't work out. Because, sometimes, when you start off directing, often enough, it's like you make the decisions and you realize that those decisions perhaps wasn't the best decision, and things get cut and lost, and you had a team work on something for, like 6-8 months, and then, their work doesn't get in. I mean, you have to understand you have to be really, really point on to be, 15, 18 months in ahead. So doing that doesn't give me time to animate and being in the micro, just kind of like being really into it, like, like, oh man, look at that little detail. I have to have the whole picture of what's going on and be on the same level as the creative director to make sure that the goal of everything it will achieve and it will get there. So not animate as much, but I do when I am working with animators and it's not clear. I do like okay, move over, like
Yeah.
sorry,
No, no
I'm like
problem.
move over, let me jump in, and I'll go in. It's like bookend, push the pose, change it. I'm like that, So I still get to kind of like play with the software, or I sit next to them, or I'm like, oh, let me show you like how you could do a reverse constraint, and use the weighting of that to kind of influence the whole performance, or the arm, whatever. I still do that because I love what I do, right?
Yeah, sure.
But
Huh.
but I love everything. That's the problem. Like when you're an artist, right? As a pure form, when you're an artist, you want to touch everything. You want to do the painting, you want to do the lighting, you want to do the directing, but when it's so big, you have to learn, like, you have to give the right information, and realize you can't do everything. You have to use your team as your your arm, right? So you have to say, I need them to do this, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard, but I do miss animating though.
So I guess
Yeah.
that when you have like 100 or 1,000 of people to deal with, that must be something super exciting, because at the AAA level, you see a lot of like super high quality things, and you want to put your hands on, and in the same way you have to say no, I have to keep the high grounded view upon the project to take the decision. So that must be super frustrating and also super exciting.
Well,
guess.
it is. Yeah. I sometimes I joke around as like, when you see it like a general, like the one that's organizing the war, where ideas is like, you send your troops to one idea. It's kind of like that. Like, you're managing and you're figuring and you're sending resources, time, and budget, right, to certain challenges, right? The challenge is the enemy. But when for me, like I said, like, even though you're choosing and making decisions, and you're having people like put many hours on something, I do like to go in and see what the team is doing, right? I like to go and work with them, like on the field, right, on the front lines, so they know it's not just me. Or I didn't want to say not just me, but not just the directors just saying like, oh, okay, do this, and they just kind of wait. No, it's like, no. When I'm working with our associate directors or assistant directors, I will work and do the same things as the prep work with them. It's just so they know, like, they're not alone. And same thing with animators, when they're like dealing with things, I will go and work with them, and even with designers, working with designers and explaining kind of like what's the intention and the vision of this element, and how we plan on using it, and making sure that it's a good call. I love working with the people, because that's how you get the best results than just saying, I want this idea, and bring it to me. It's like, then most of the time it might not be what you have in your head. They don't understand. They can't see the ideas in your head, so you have to be able to explain. And I believe you should also be able to go and work with the team directly. If you look at it on the flip side, like example, and I'm just kind of reflecting, remember when when I was an animator, having understanding, like, if you have a director that understands that you're working on their stuff and they're helping you, it's important to realize that as artists, one, it's not our vision. We're there to help execute the director's vision or the studio's vision, right? The director's executing the studio vision, and we're executing the director's vision. But on the flip side, it's important to realize that it's very complex. It's hard, right? It's really hard. And I, like, when I was an animator, I was very fortunate enough to be to learn from some great directors and be included in those learnings and those teachings. But you always have to see, like, the piece that you're doing is a really small piece on the big piece, right? If those small Lego pieces are not done right, and that's the foundation, well, then everything collapses. So your work is vital, like, to the project, to the director, and to the studio. Your work is vital as much as their decision is vital. And when you work, like, with Watchdog, there's multiple studios, and there was a studio that I'll be like sending my direction, for like world activities and Watchdogs. I couldn't go and sit down with them because, you know, they're in a different country, right? But I have to be able to give them the right direction, but I also have to make sure that that if not just saying, hey, this is what is needed, but I have to look at it on the other side. If I can look at it on from other side, is it clear? Could I do this? And this is what I've been teaching. It's like, are you directing like IKEA? Like, you know, the IKEA manual, it's very, very precise. You can follow the instructions and you will get the exact same results as anyone that followed that instruction. So I'm always looking at it from both sides. And I think it's important to learn to understand what you're doing. So you can one day you can say, can I explain this if I ever become a director?
Yeah, this is a bit the thing you were touching when you say that as an artist you'd like to know everything, you know, but you don't have time to do everything. But I guess as an art director or director, it's important at some point in your life to add a bit of experience on each part of the process, whether it's modeling. You don't need to model yourself, but to be a bit involved into modeling, to understand the ins and outs, so that when you give a briefing, you're like, okay, I want a mid poly, high poly, etc. Even if you don't know how to do it, but you know what it takes to do it. If the planning, the schedules are doable or not. Same for the animation. Am I using the correct vocabulary when I'm communicating with my team or with outsourced studios, as you said? So I feel a bit like that, you know, that you have to have a broad idea of what they want to do, to be able to teach them the little pieces that will help them do what they need to do. So as a director, it's a bit the same way. You have to grasp a bit every pieces of the big puzzle to be able to assemble everything and put the right person on the right missions or the right task and stuff like that. That's
putting the right pieces, because remember, whether it's teaching, if you're guiding someone to life, right? You're telling them like, this will be good for your life. They won't see it the day you tell them like, hey, you should work on this. They might see it, you know, a year. They might see it 5 years from now. I use this a lot as an example right here, a pen, right? If I say go left here, that little movement at the bottom is so small, but the direction you go could be like that. I'm like, oh, let's go this way. I'm like, oh, it doesn't seem bad. But when down the line, you'd be like, man, that was a bad decision. I should really would have went this way, you know? So those small decisions can have major impacts financially, career-wise. Like, so that's how I take that responsibility. You know, I don't take lightly. You know, I take it when we're teaching, I take it very seriously, people's careers and the choices I make for them or to help them, or for the studio, same thing.
For you, what's the big difference at your side about gameplay animation or gameplay production and marketing animation and directing, as you do for Rainbow Six, for example?
Oh, so for marketing, things is much quicker, right? Even though you know, when you know at Ubisoft, we're always pushing and aiming to do the highest quality production and really, you know, do great stuff for our fans. But in marketing, things are done way much quicker than it would be for gameplay, because you know, most of the time the idea has been established, right? Even though we're creating new ideas, we're, you know, working with storyboard artists and marketing directors, but for the most part the idea is done, or the IP is kind of established, and we're just trying to make a piece to promote it. So it's just really quick. As game production, sometimes, right? So, you know, working on a new IP, you know, and the idea is kind of there, but it hasn't been established. So game production can take some time, and finding the right, we like to use the ingredients, right? Finding the right ingredients, finding the right elements that makes that game fun. You know, if you're lucky, you can get it right away. Or if you have the experience, you know how to craft that and say, I know the recipe to make that great experience, right? I know to use this ingredient and put it together and create this wonderful dish, this wonderful experience. Then yeah, you could make it quick. But for the most part, many games have a hard time standing out or making themselves really what makes them unique, and that takes time. It just, like play as anyone, like that's a big idea, and that's super complex. The idea is like, let's play as anyone, but what does that really mean? It takes so much time, so much love and dedication and commitment to that idea, and sometimes you don't even know if it's going to work, right? You're like, is this going to really work? It's like, this is so big, and like, are we ready? Is the technology ready? Like, there's a lot of questions that comes into play. But gameplay is about, I see it as this: gameplay, you need to test and experience a million times before you hand it off to the player. Marketing, it's more like, there's a recipe that's already established in the world. It's like, do something big, do something fun, cool lighting, cool effects, whatever, for that type of marketing. And you're just kind of just telling a quick mini story, and the audience knows, like, okay, this is a 15-second piece, 30-second, 45-second, whatever, minute. They know, because if it's a small piece, how much information they'll get, and they're not going to ask a million questions. They're just going to like, oh, it's short, cool. When you play a game, it's like, okay, what can I do? There's a lot of things you have to indulge, or you have to do to please your player, right? So it's just it's complex. It's really complex,
So in a way, when you do marketing stuff, it's a bit of some oxygen in your usual work, let's say. I mean, those are maybe shorter projects, so they are maybe a little easier to handle, and it kind of change a bit your like a distraction from the usual, okay, I have to direct a big project, okay, let's do a bit of marketing just to relax.
Yeah, I love marketing. I'll say this: I love, like, the fact that I get right now, I have the time and the ability to work on multiple projects. I love it because, remember, artists likes to do a lot of things, and sometimes they're like, okay, like, I'm not sure right now, and you can then jump onto something else. So for me, it's like, I'm in heaven right now.
Cool.
But it is true, like, marketing is quicker, it's faster, and I don't want to say it's easier, but it's just a different world. As when you're doing a game and you're creating a world, well, that world has so much in it, like the world environment, the character world, the story, the just a location has its own story, right? Why is this building abandoned, right? What happened? Well, you gotta dive deep. You can't just say, oh, abandoned building, what is it? I don't know. But then the player will get an I don't know experience. So you really need to know what you're trying to the player to feel, right? Because every movement they make, it's an emotion, right? And you have that connection on the joystick for gameplay. That emotion is, you have to, like, when they walk into a new environment and it's a nice scenery, you want them to, like, oh my god, and you kind of put a little path, a little hidden path, and you make, like, them curious, but you make it really dark and make them really scared, and like, maybe I need to prepare before taking, like, that's big. These are huge, and you have to really think ahead. Like, I create something, when I'm thinking about creating something, and I mentioned before, I know exactly where I want to go with it, and I actually, like, I practice, I rehearse, I sit with the team, and I'll, like, with the creative briefs, and I'll pitch it, and then I absolutely, sometimes mandatory, I was like, hey, you got to tell me what's missing. I don't know. It's not an answer. You got to tell me what's missing. And sometimes, I mean, there's always something. Be like, well, it's like, we didn't add. We should add shark teeth, right? This shark teeth on the side, and this person's gonna use the shark teeth to put it on his arrow, whatever. I don't know. I just made that up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's that. Yeah, that's what's missing. That little extra gold nugget, that dust, right? You got to think like that in gameplay constantly. Marketing is more like, it's already done. It's just get straight to the core of it, to the excitement. Here's like, you have to keep them in a world of excitement. So totally different.
So there is, from what you are saying, what there is a lot of, you relate a lot to storytelling each time you're talking about something, whether it's the the environment, the way the character may move, or the way you may animate them, it always relates to the story and the fact that the player is experiencing this story. So it's like directing a movie, you know, or the pre-production of a movie in a way.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely like that. But in a sense, there's utter complexity, right? Because the story you're trying to tell, you will be working with a designer. So Nicholas was a game designer that worked on Watch Dogs. Phenomenal designer, awesome guy. Really love and enjoy. And we wanted to tell, you know, and the art director, Pat, we were talking, and it was like we're talking about like news drones, right? This in Watch Dogs to have like news in the future, like how do you get the news, or how does news get caught? And today we have drones everywhere. You know, drones are probably spying on us, right? And it was like, well, what if the news had news drones just flying around the city and to catch, you know, crime and to film it and report it, right? So it's like these ideas. It's like, how do you tell these kind of stories through this, and how do you get a design? How do you design it so it can work in the system, right? So everyone is trying to tell a story. They're not just like a designer doesn't say, hey, I'm going to design something. No, they're designing something with purpose, right? There's a reason why they're creating it, and they're designing around that experience, and that experience is, what is the experience? What is the story that you want the player to live? As much as a film that, you know, you're sitting down eating your popcorn, what is the story that or emotions that you want the audience to experience? It's very similar. I mean, practically in a sense, they're the same thing, right? We're giving experience, emotions, and stories, and we want people to live them and make an opinion of it, right? So
that's cool, super cool. Ubisoft has joined the Blender Development Fund, I think in 2 years ago or last year, I don't remember. And I know that some French branch of Ubisoft use Blender for game prototyping, but also to produce animation TV shows. Do you use Blender also at Ubisoft Montreal on the game you've been working on?
Like for Watch Dogs, I'm not sure if anyone did use Blender. I know that, you know, Ubisoft, you know, even myself, I think Blender is a phenomenal software, and it's, you know, the community is really great. Maybe there's some that have used it, but I, you know, as much as I try to, you know, go to the team and work with the team, I don't know who was using it. Perhaps even maybe we might even use it for some marketing stuff. But again, it's really hard to say which software is using. I think Ubisoft is great because if someone you know, really enjoys the software, there is the possibility they can. So if you really are really great with Blender and it's going to help a production, you know, Ubisoft is pretty understanding, and if it works with the pipeline, you know, I'm sure they would accommodate.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. One last question about Ubisoft. What's your favorite game you've shipped so far?
Oh man.
Or maybe the most influential in your career, because I guess the latest must be your favorite. But
it's like
it's often like that, you know. But
I think the most influential was Splinter Cell. Right, Splinter Cell is something that I like. I have a very special spot for a Splinter Cell, right? You know, Sam Fisher and you know, my take on Sam Fisher, or where I believe the IP should go. You know, I've been working on you know, I've been working on rebooting and trying to get something going for potentially for you know, the Splinter Cell brand on my side, right? Nothing official, right? Nothing official, right? You know, I was like, what, you know? But this is just me as a fan. No, you can leave it. No, it's just me as a fan that would like to use my understanding, and you know, perhaps my expertise to do something with that brand, or take it somewhere where it hasn't gone before and bringing it really to the public in a different eye. But yeah, Sam Fisher was really, because a lot of the stuff that when built iAnimate came from when I was training animators, what was like maybe many years ago, 15, probably maybe 15 years ago. And some of the training that I was doing at Ubisoft during that time had a huge influence on the creation of iAnimate. So Sam Fisher, for me, that is like a piece that kind of bridges, game development and having people industry ready or learning exactly like, just because you went to school and get a piece of paper doesn't mean you're ready.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, hey, no, this is what it means to be ready. So that's why I think Sam Fisher has a really special spot for me.
Yeah, that's cool. That's kind of legendary, IP, Splinter Cell, and I
Oh
really hope to see it maybe one day something
yeah,
new about.
I can't speak for
Yeah,
the
for
the
you
studio, but I could say that I think I love Sam Fisher. I think he's a really cool person, right? That's a
yeah,
real cool cool character, and I think there's a lot that can be done or said through that story.
yeah,
It's just
absolutely,
personal thing.
absolutely. What will be for you a good candidate to be recruited at Ubisoft? What are you looking for into someone? What is a good demo reel to you? I mean, in the spectrum of animation, because it's a broad question. If you need
Oh
a
man, I
production
got an
director,
answer for you right now.
yeah,
I got an answer for you right now. First of all, I'm gonna look straight in the camera. We're gonna do the classic, right? I don't know if you ever seen some of my old lectures. The classic look straight in the camera, start pointing, right? First of all, when you make a reel, right? You should make a reel for the studio you're applying to,
yeah,
right? If you're making a reel for games, make a games reel, right? It's cool. You have cool stuff, right? Cool action, cool stuff. But how does it fit in a game, man? Right? This is the things that I would say is like you could make a cool animation, but could you take that animation, say this would fit in my game right here, at Ubisoft? If I can't see that how this would work in games, then you might not get the job because you're not making animations for the studio needs. So all to say is your reel should dictate and display the type of skills that we can apply. Most animators make cool reels and they make it for themselves, not realizing that you cannot hire yourself, right? So if you're gonna make a reel for the directors or the studios that are hiring. And that little thing of like, what makes a good reel? Well, what makes a good reel is a reel that is designed and purpose for the job you're getting.
yeah.
So everyone has like all these cool reels that like, it could be a cool battle scene, could be a cool acting scene, and they love it. Great. I'm happy that you love your work, but are you asking, will the studio love this or want this to be like, oh my God, this is the exact type of animations we need. Oh my God, this is the exact type of performance we need. Oh my God, this is kind of the flavor of the character we're trying to build that we need. Build that. I mean, I know I got carried away, but
No, that's really. I mean, you have to make a relevant reel, showing that
exactly.
you know how to animate for games, because we all want to make like super flashy animation with a lot of camera move
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But when you are in game production, you have a point of view, you have a silhouette of your character, and you have to
Yeah.
communicate an information to the player. You're not here to do like crazy stuff. It has, am I
Exactly.
attacking? Am I suffering or stuff like that?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
so
you're casted, right? I say this often on the podcast, like an actor, right? If I'm a comedian and there's a serious drama and they just look at my acting reel and it's just comedy, they're gonna be like, okay, sure, he's funny, he's a good actor, but it's funny. It's not what we're looking for. So
yeah,
why would I hire that actor? Animators you should consider yourself like that, like you're being casted for a job. So if they're looking for someone to do drama, give them drama. If they're looking for someone to do action, give them action. If they're looking for someone to do, tuning, we'll give them tuning.
that's
It's
cool.
it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah. But that's something, especially I mean, junior animator might forget about, because when you are in the industry, you generally, progress as a game animator, for example. So your reel will kind of build itself toward
Yeah.
animation for games,
Yeah.
But when you're starting like that, if you do want to go to Ubisoft, hey, you have to kind of try to find what style of animation they are looking for, and also what
Exactly.
level of quality and what
Yeah.
kind of animation. I mean, what's the purpose? Is it for games? Is it for cinematic for games? Because I guess
Exactly.
there are. And what define a cinematic shot in the world of Ubisoft, for example. So that's something very
You
important.
you 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 hit right on the point, right? So when you're an animator starting, you have to have enough pieces to say like I can do that job. So obviously run cycles, any cycles, right? Anything
Yeah.
that's cycle and that could branch, right? So if you're going to show, combat, sometimes we have, cool animation, combat animations, and they're doing these great cool move, but they're not orientated straight forward, because when you're doing combat, you're hitting your opponent in front of you. And someone's like doing combat and they're doing the baton and then they're looking left over here and looking right, when the player is 90% of the time is attacking straight. Don't give me a jump kick here, and then end cool there. Like, where were my enemies?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like to tease. I like to tease the animators sometimes. Like, what? You know, you're doing. It's good. It's a good way of learning.
That's cool. That's cool. This is the end of part 1 of this interview. I will soon be publishing the second part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you want. Cheers!